So we all know that menu systems on Sony cameras are ridiculously convoluted, and I mean, there's a lot of options, but it can be hard to sift through it all. And mine's in Japanese, which makes it all that more harder to sort of figure out how to set your camera up. So in this video, I wanted to go through how I've actually set up all the custom buttons and features on the Sony A7 III for hybrid shooting, so for photography and videography. And hopefully you guys learn something from it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nick, and here at ThatModernDude, we do tech and modern lifestyle videos. So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing down below. And so I want to talk about the A7 III. One of the best parts about this camera is the fact that you can customize it to your heart's content, which is good because, like I said at the start, the menus are very, very convoluted. They're not bad by any means, there's just a lot of pages, and finding what you want can be hard. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm not going to show you how to set up custom buttons in this video. There are much more in-depth videos on YouTube, and I'll leave a couple down below that you might want to check out for that. But what we'll start with is, we'll start with the mode dial, right? Because with the A7 series, whether that's the A3 or the R3 or even, you know, the older models, you have this mode dial. And I've set this up so that I never have to change my settings. So the first one I use is M. And M, obviously manual. I use this purely for photo, which is what you'd use it for anyway. There is no extra function set. This is, I switch it to M and it's set up for manual photo mode. Nothing changed there. Then if I switch the dial to 1, this is where I've set my camera up for standard shooting at 24 frames a second in 4K. So all I have to do to switch to filming is, instead of going all the way around to the film icon, I just switch it from M to 1, and now it's got all my features and functions set up for 4K filming at 24 frames a second. It has my picture profile set up, has my custom buttons, everything the way I like it. Moving on from 1, I switch it to 2. 2 is my slow-mo setting. So on number 2, it shoots 1080p at 120 frames a second. And again, it has my picture profile and custom buttons all built in. So you can see there, just with the 3 settings, I can easily switch between photo, normal video, and slow-mo video at a quick switch. And I don't have to change any settings. Don't have to go into the menus at all. Just quickly switch and it's good to go. The base ISO is set, the shutter speeds are set, so I don't have to change any of that. Now, there is an S&Q mode on this camera, slow and quick. I don't use it for slow motion, but I do sort of use it for rudimentary time lapses. So when I switch it to S&Q, it will be set up for, it'll be set up to take sort of like 1 picture every second. So you kind of get like a, sort of like a time lapse feature there. And that's all I use S&Q setting for. The rest, I never use. I use auto if I want to palm the camera off to someone else, just so you don't have to teach them how to use it. The only other option I will use on this camera is S, which is shutter priority. And I use shutter priority for vlogging with the camera because all it will do is it's going to maintain a constant shutter speed. So it will maintain the shutter 1/50 for 4K at 24, and it will adapt the aperture for the brightness. Now, quite often I'll make sure that the ISO is set to like 200 to 400. I won't change that, and I'll just let it adapt the aperture. This just means that, so while I'm vlogging, I don't have to worry about my exposure at all because the camera is going to automatically compensate. And even if I have an ND filter on it, I can still, you know, control the ND filter and kind of force the camera to use a 2.8 aperture. It's not how everyone vlogs with the camera, but I find it sort of like the easiest because obviously we don't have a flip out screen. It can be hard to check exposure. And I find just by vlogging with shutter priority, I don't have to worry about it too much, and I get, you know, usable results more often than not. But that's how I've got the mode dial set up, and I don't, like I said, that's set up so I don't have to change any settings. And my custom buttons for the entire camera are the same throughout. So they do not change whether I'm in photo mode or video mode. And so I'll go through that. Now, you can customize pretty much every button on the A7 III. So we'll start with C1, which is up the top near the shutter. So C1, I have set to Super 35 mode. That allows me to get a little bit of extra reach out of all my lenses. Some people like to put that further away. I find I don't really accidentally hit it. And it's nice to have it right there where the shutter is, so that if I'm trying to take a shot and I'm filming and I realize, oh, I need a little bit extra reach, I can just bump C1 and I'll get, you know, that 1.6 times crop on the camera. I find that really, really handy to have right there, you know, where my index finger sort of lies. C2, I have set up to manual focus. And the reason I have that is because the lens that I use, the Tamron 28-75, doesn't have a manual autofocus switch. So without having to go into the settings, I just have it set to C2 and I can click it on and off. And because I have peaking set up on the camera too, I can sort of easily see on the screen as well because the peaking appears and it's all, you know, it's all beautiful. So that's C1 and C2. These are the most common ones that I will use, hence why I've assigned them to the ones where my index finger sort of lies. C3, which is over here. I don't use it all that often because, you know, I kind of shoot with one hand, and anyway, I don't really use it that often, but it is set up to change my picture profile. I don't really do it a lot, but sometimes you're in a bright situation and you maybe, you know, you want to shoot in S-Log 3 or 2 to get a little bit more dynamic range. So I have that quickly set up so I can quickly change my picture profile. But again, I don't really use it that much. I'll go into what picture profile I use at the end. C4, which is the little delete button here, I've actually set that up to the viewfinder. Yes, the viewfinder does have like that automatic face detection. It will turn the screen on and off, but I found it really, really touchy so that, you know, if I accidentally moved my hand or I got a bit too close, it would turn the screen off. And there is a little bit of a delay when it does that. So I tend to shoot with the screen more often than not. And so if I accidentally turn the viewfinder on, I gotta wait a few seconds to get the screen back, and it's just found it to be a bit of a pain. Turned it off, I've assigned it to the C4 button, and that means that if I'm in photo mode and it's a bit too bright for the screen, I can hit that and I can just use the viewfinder like so. It's just things like that just to make shooting a little bit easier and more fluid. Other than that, I haven't really customized any other button. My dial here I've set to automatically adjust the ISO. That way I don't have to hit an extra button and adjust it. I can just rotate that wheel and the ISO will change. All these dials here are set to, you know, the standard aperture and shutter speed. AF on and the AEL. AEL I have set to eye autofocus, so I just hold that whilst in photo mode and I can get, you know, focus on the eye. And the AF on button I use to punch in on the image on the screen so that I can, you know, if I'm manually focusing, I can focus on it. I kind of turn the auto zoom feature off. It just bothered me, I think, whilst on the fly. So yeah, I've set that to a custom button now if I want to get my focus bang on, but I use peaking, so, you know, I don't really use that button all that much. All right, so that's all the buttons and switches and dials and how I have that set up for my camera. With the SD card slots, quite often I have it set to shoot auto backup, you know, easiest way, and I'll format the cards after every shoot. And like I said, because this is in Japanese, the custom menu that you can set up on the screen, I have that set up with only two options, which is format and smartphone control. And that way I can go in quickly and I can read a little bit of Japanese. So it's, you know, it's easy to figure out which is which. And I can just go in and go format the cards. It's very easy in smartphone control. And I find that having the camera set up this way means that I never have to go into a menu setting. I never have to change anything, and it's super easy and quick to shoot with. So if you want to set your camera up similar to mine, you know, I'll leave like in the description how I have actually set the camera up so you can, you know, you don't have to watch the video over and over and over and over. Picture profile, what do I shoot in? I shoot with Cine 4. I find that S-Log 2 and S-Log 3 can be a real color grade, and I'm not a colorist, and that's probably why I find it really hard. I did start off using S-Log 2 and 3 because everyone's like, oh, you get more dynamic range, but I think, you know, the colors just don't turn out as nice, so I use Cine 4. And if you want a full breakdown of the exact profile I use, I'll leave a link to the video. I use Cody Blue's Cine 4 preset, and I find that that gives me a really nice sort of base out of camera. It is a little flat, so you get a bit more dynamic range, and I find it color grades really, really well. So there you guys have it. That is sort of my settings on how I have my A7 III set up for video and photo hybrid shooting. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that thumbs up button down below. Leave me a comment. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to get back to you. And until the next video, guys, see ya.